Hello and welcome to Tabletop for One. Welcome back to my adventures in Tanares here as I explore this fabulous game that I enjoy so much so far. I went ahead and set up the first scenario once again, but just the final room because I want to show you the Comrades. Now, the Comrades is a system that allows you to choose 3 characters alongside your main character for more ease of play as a solo player. So your main character will still have its skill board, your character card, your 6 cards that you would have, and your equipment. But your comrades are going to have the character card and the main attack card, the main comrade card. Here, I'll show you. It says comrade on the back for the particular class. This is the level 0 card. Or, sorry, level 1 card. So I have one for each of the healer, tank, and brute. And with those, you also get, for each character, a lesser impulse and a greater impulse card. And what these cards do is they allow your main hero to take an extra turn, basically, instead of one of the comrades taking a turn. Now, each of the comrades comes with an ability, just one single ability, and so it'll be different for each character. But for instance, the tank here, it says, attack 1 space away, a melee attack, choose 1 benefit to gain +1 to the attack, or move 2, deal 10 damage, and then gain an effect. You heal 5, or deal 1 damage and pull for an enemy within 5 spaces of you. Residual damage, of course, is going to be 5 here. Now, all the allies come with a skill of their own, and it's either a heal or a damage skill. The healer and the tank have a heal skill, and basically you're able to spend mana. You spend as much mana as you'd like, and depending on how much you spend here, you'll deal that much damage or heal that much hit points. So it's 3, 6, 10, and 16 for 1, 2, 3, or 4 mana. Your base stats are going to be at the bottom here. And that goes for each character. Now the healer does a little bit of damage, and it has the option to heal a hero or dispel 3, and an ally moves 2 and heals 4. The brute does 12 damage, and has the option to do an extra 3 damage or run to another enemy within 5 spaces, and it takes 5 damage. Alright, so I've kind of randomized this setup here to simulate the fact that we've made it to the 4th room of the first scenario of the game. So I just want to play these characters, show you how the comrade system works, kind of give you an idea whether it's easier or not to play the comrades versus 4 full characters. And so I've set the hit points kind of lower for the characters. I got the tank at 55, the brute at 50, the controller at 48, and the healer at 46. The enemies are set up for their normal hit points here, and so once again we have the Berserker Guardian, and his guardians of course target the hero with the most mana. There's his stats, and he does 17 damage plus empowers another villain. The Archer Guardian does 11 damage at range and heals 6 as well as flee 3. And then the Warrior Mystic here does 14 damage and does a blast around the hero that it hits. And these all have passive abilities too, and we'll trigger those as they go. You're also able to trigger your passive abilities on all your comrades, and of course your main character, which I have as the controller here. I've picked out my 4 skills in my previous video due to table space and the fact that I only have 1 camera. I was not able to show you like flipping the skill tokens, so I set that up here so you can see more easily what actually happens. And so here we are ready to start our first turn. And so I think for the first turn that I'm going to go ahead and target the archer with the brute. And so we're going to send the brute. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And the brute is going to make an attack. We'll opt to have the +1 to the roll. So we need to roll a 5 or better because the defense on an archer is 6. And so we're going to go ahead and roll. It's a 5. Nice. So we hit, and we're going to do 12 damage to the archer, bringing him down to 53. And now we get to decide if we want to do an extra 3 damage or run to another enemy within 5 of me and take 5 damage. Considering that the archer is going next and he's targeting the hero with the most mana, that means he's going to go for the brute. So if I move away from the archer right now, he will attack me and get his passive ability, which triggers if he moves 2 or less and doesn't sidestep. If I stay where I'm at, he will sidestep. So I think I'm going to leave the brute there. So we'll deal the extra 3 damage, bringing the archer down to 50. Now on top of that, I can go ahead and trigger my brute's ability here, which says no ally is in one space of the target, which is true. I gain 1 red mana, and then move an ally 2. And so I think I'm going to move the healer here. I think that's my choice. So now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trigger my skill. And I'm going to spend all 4 of these red mana tokens from the Brood, dealing a total of 16 damage. We're going to go ahead and deal it to the archer, bringing him further down to 34. So immediately we've done a nice amount of damage there. Now, with that in mind, the archer is going to switch targets. So now he's going to go for the healer because the healer has the most mana. Actually, the controller and the healer do, but then in that case, it goes towards the one that's the closest, and that's going to be the healer. Now, he's not going to start his attack there because if he does, the brute will have a reaction attack against him for him initiating a ranged attack adjacent to the brute. So he's going to sidestep. And then he's going to go ahead and attack the healer. So we're going to roll for that. The healer has 7 defense. And we'll see what happens. That's an 11. So once again, the archer's ability doesn't trigger. Oh, and before I forget, I was supposed to put an exhaustion cube on the brute. But anyways, we'll keep going here. So the archer's passive doesn't trigger because he had to sidestep. He does 11 damage to the healer, bringing the healer down to 35. He does heal 6 to the villain with the lowest hit points, and that's going to be himself, bringing him back up to 40. And then he's going to flee if he didn't move this turn, which he did sidestep, so he's going to stay right where he's at. Okay, so now he gets an exhaustion cube here. And then we go on to the next turn. And I think we're going to go ahead and use the tank. Or sorry, the healer, actually. Let's go ahead and use the healer. So we're going to use the healer. Healer's going to target the warrior mystic there. And the warrior mystic has 7 defense. The healer's going to gain focus because there's no enemy within 3 spaces. And she's not going to move. So we'll go ahead and roll for that attack. That's a 19. Very good. So he's going to take 8 damage, which is going to bring him down to 52. And then her ability allows me to move an ally and heal it 4. So I'm going to move the tank 2 spaces here. There was a move 2 and heal an ally 4. So he's also going to get healed up to 59. Okay, so now it's the warrior mystic's turn. Let me put a cube on the healer there. It's now the warrior mystic's turn, and so he's going to target the hero that's the furthest away that's reachable, which currently is the tank. Because he has 5 movement, And so he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to stop there because the Warrior Mystic has a melee range of 2. But he does incite a reaction from the Brute, taking a total of 8 damage, bringing him down to 44. So now, before the Warrior Mystic makes his attack, we're going to go ahead and use Fog. Fog on the controller means that the Warrior Mystic is cursed for this roll, so he's going to have to roll twice, and the lowest roll is the one that matters. So he's attacking the tank who has 8 defense. So we're going to roll. That's it doesn't get any worse than that. So that's a 1. So doesn't matter if we roll any more at that point. So but the tank's going to take residual damage. Now, I think I messed this up in the last video. I thought a natural 1 automatically missed and meant no residual damage, but the fact is that I believe I read that wrong. So at this point, the tank is going to take 8 residual damage. If I'm incorrect, please correct me in the comments below. I'd appreciate that. So the tank took 8 residual damage. We are now adding a cube onto the Warrior Mystic. Then we are going to do the next turn. All right, I had forgotten to take a mana token off of the controller, so we're going to do that now. And so now we're going to go on and actually do the controller's turn. And so with this controller's turn, I want to use Mind Strike. Now, Mind Strike allows me to target 2 enemies 8 squares away. And I'm going to target the Archer and the Berserker. But the Berserker will be the first target. Now, once again, to get line of sight, you have to draw an imaginary line from one corner of your character to one corner of the character of your target. And it just barely clears that corner on the wall there. And so this corner right here does have line of sight to this corner of the Archer. So we're going to attack the Archer and the Berserker. Once again, the Berserker is the first target because I want to provoke him for the next turn. All right, so the controller is going to go ahead and get focus because she's not going to move. And there's one other thing that I missed that I want to go ahead and correct right here. Once again, sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything, but when the healer went, the healer should have done 5 extra damage because her passive effect triggered, which says an ally is within 3 spaces of you on the first hit of your turn. So when the healer hit the blue mystic there, it should have added another 5 damage, which I've corrected, bringing the blue mystic down to 39. So now we are going to use Mind Strike with the controller, and we're going to go ahead and attack the Berserker, which has 6 defense. We have focus, so we just need a 3 or better. That's a 12, so that's going to hit. The Berserker is going to take 6 damage, bringing him down to 54, but we're going to go ahead and flip our short bow here, adding 5 damage to that, bringing it down to 49. And now we're going to roll against the Archer, and that's an 18, so the Archer is going to go ahead and take 6 damage. And now both of these I get to move 1 space. So I will go ahead and move him 1 space here, and this one space adjacent to the Brute. All right, so now the controller is done for the turn, and then it's going to be the Berserker's turn. Okay, so the Berserker, he's going to target the hero with the most mana, which is currently the healer. And so the healer's right here. He's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, once again, it's going to be the shortest distance. And then if the shortest distance is multiple routes, it's going to be the one that's the safest. That is the shortest distance and the safest route. Had he gone 1, 2, 3, 4, he would have incited a reaction from the tank. And so in this case, he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, not inciting a reaction. And he's going to attack the healer. Healer has 7 defense. And here we go. That's a miss again. Oh my goodness. It's working out for me, but healer's still going to take 8 residual damage, bringing her down to 27. Okay, so now that the Berserker has gone, it is now the tank's turn. He's the last one for this round. And we're not going to move him. We're just going to go ahead and attack the Berserker Guardian right next to him, who has 6 defense. We're going to gain the +1 to the attack roll. And let's see what happens. That's a critical hit. That's a 20 right there. All right, so critical hit's going to add an extra 5 damage to that attack, making it a total of 15, bringing him down to 34 damage. On top of that, I can heal 5, or I can deal 1 damage and pull an enemy towards me. Can't help but wonder if I should pull this archer. 1, 2, right here, and deal 1 damage to him. I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so now we have the final exhaustion cube on the board, and we finished the round. So we're going to take all these back off and start another round with one of our heroes. All right, so at this point, I want to go ahead and use one of my favorite attacks, and that's going to be Wheel of Fortune. It's a special attack with the controller, so it's a one-off attack. I will not get this back. Targets an enemy within 8 squares, and before striking, I make 2 guesses about the roll. So I can guess it's going to be 13 or less, or 14 or more, and odd or even. It's going to deal 20 damage plus 10 to a different enemy for each correct guess. So I'm going to go ahead and guess 13 or less and even. All right, so that's my guess. And so I'm looking at targeting the Mystic here. I do not have focus because the Berserker is within 3 spaces of the controller. So let's go ahead and roll and see what happens. All right, it's a 10. That's going to be less than 13 and even. All right, so that's going to do 20 damage. All right, so 20 damage, bringing that Mystic down to 19. On top of that, both of my guesses are right. So I'm going to do an additional 20 damage. And so it says for each correct guess, a different enemy takes 10 damage. And so who are we going to choose? I guess we'll go ahead and choose the Archer, because the Archer is probably the most problematic, and we're going to try and bring him down quickly. So that brings him down to 13 there. And that's going to end the controller's turn. Now we've triggered the Warrior Mystic. Okay, so the Warrior Mystic is going to move and attack the hero with the most distance away that's reachable. And that's going to be the controller. All right, so he's going to go 1, 2, 3. And that's going to incite a reaction attack. Now, once again, if you have 2 possible reaction attacks, which we do from the tank and the brute, I choose which one is going to do it. I'm going to choose the brute, and we are going to take him down 8 hit points, bring him down to 11. He's got 2 range, that's why he stopped there. So he's going to go ahead and attack the controller. And I think what I'm going to do prior to that is I'm going to go ahead and spend that skill token in this mana and do Dark Bolts, which is pay 6 hit points, so she goes down to 42, deal 5 damage to 2 different villains. So we're just going to go ahead and do that to the Warrior Mystic and the Archer Guardian. And so they're down to 6 and 8, almost dead. All right, so he's going to go ahead and roll against the controller. Controller only has 6 defense. So let's see what happens. That's a 19. That's going to be a hit. So he's going to do 14 damage to the controller. But we're going to go ahead and use our leather jacket. And so the leather jacket gives me shielding 5. So I'm only going to take 9 damage on that, bringing me down to 33. And then it would do a blast within one space of the target. There's nobody there, so it's not going to happen. However, he's going to trigger his passive effect. Says no other villain is in one space of the target. Run to another hero, the closest to this one, and deal 5 damage to it. So it's going to be the healer there. So the healer is going to go ahead and take 5 damage, bringing her down to 22. Now that exhausts the warrior, and it's our turn again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and attack with the brute. Alright, so the brute's going to attack the archer that's next to him. Now the archer is mobbed, and if you remember what that means, that is where 2 heroes are adjacent to a villain that's being attacked, but the heroes are not adjacent to each other. And so in this case, the archer is exposed. So he basically has -3 defense. We're going to go ahead and take +1 to the attack roll. And so at this point, we just need a 2 or better to hit the archer. So we'll go ahead and roll for that. That's a 4 there. So we hit the archer. The archer is going to take 12 damage. And it's gonna die. Alright. I also get an added effect of being able to run to another enemy within 5 spaces, and it takes 5 damage. So we'll remove the archer there. We're gonna run here to the Berserker Guardian, and it's gonna take 5 damage. My passive effect does not go into play because there was another hero within 1 space of my target. And now, of course, all my characters will gain 1 mana each for the villain dying. Okay, so it's still our turn because nobody was provoked. All right, we killed off the archer, so he does not fight back. So it's our turn once again, and I get to decide what I want to do. And so at this point, this is where I'm going to use greater impulse with the healer. And so the way this is going to work, my healer's in a bad position basically. So she's using a ranged effect. And so when she declares a ranged attack, she is going to take reaction damage from one of the 2 enemies there, and it's going to do 8 damage. So she's down to 14. But what this does is this lets me target the controller, basically any non-comrade hero, to heal 10 to that hero. So the controller is going to go up to 43. And then the controller can move 3 and make a primary attack, which is empowered 8. So it's going to deal 8 extra damage. And so I have to decide which attack I want to use. But I think I'm going to go ahead and use Cursed Bolt. All right, so Cursed Bolt, of course, if it hits, curses the target. And we're going to target the Berserker Guardian. As far as I know, I don't get focus with the controller because it's not the controller's turn. Keep that in mind. But we'll go ahead and roll against 6 defense. That's a 10. Perfect. So, Cursed Bolt does 10 damage normally, but it's empowered, so it's going to do 18 damage, bringing him down to 11, and it's going to curse him. Now note, because I used Greater Impulse on the healer's turn, even though it gave the controller effectively another turn, the exhaustion cube goes on the healer. And now it's going to be the Guardian's turn, the Berserker Guardian. He's going to target the hero with the most mana. And so he's going to target the healer. And after targeting the healer, we're going to go ahead and spend this mana and heal the healer by 10. Bringing her back up to 24. And now he's going to go ahead and attack. And we are going to roll. The healer has 7 defense, but remember he's cursed. So we'll see what happens there. 18 on the first roll. Let's hope that's not the final roll. And a 13. Either way, the healer's getting hit. Now, he did not move, he did not sidestep, which triggers his passive ability, dealing an extra 7 damage. How coincidental is that? Because it's 24 damage total, killing off the healer. Oh no! So the healer's dead. You can just put that there. Okay, so the healer's dead. I can revive her, but it's at the start of her next turn. We're in the middle of a round. We still have the tank and the archer's gone. We can go ahead and get rid of that. But we still have the tank to go. So it's not going to be until the beginning of her next round. But at the beginning of each quest, you're given 2 of these first aid tokens. All right, the way the first aid tokens work is differently than Arena the Contest. You're going to find this information in the quest guide on page 4, where it explains first aid tokens right here. It says you begin the quest, every quest, with 2 first aid tokens. When the turn of the dead hero begins, you must spend 1 token to revive it with 30 hit points and heal 10 to all other heroes. But if such a turn begins and both tokens have already been spent, you lose the quest. Alright, so I'm not worried about the healer dying at that moment. I think we just continue and see what we can do. The first thing I want to do is I want to start, well, I'm going to use the tank, right? So we're going to attack the warrior mystic with the tank. The tank is going to get a +1 to his roll as his benefit, rolling against 7 defense. And here we go. It's a 17, and that's going to kill off the warrior mystic. On top of that, the tank will heal 5, bringing him up to 56. Okay, so now that's going to end the round. We're going to take our tokens back. And just so you understand how this works, at this point we will declare it the healer's turn. The healer is going to go back up to 30 hit points, putting her character back on the board, and everybody else is going to heal 10. This may seem like overkill for this particular scenario, but bear in mind this is the tutorial scenario. It's kind of designed for you to win. So things get harder. There's a lot more effects in later scenarios that make it more challenging, but also more fun. Okay, so with that, it is now the healer's turn, and we might as well go ahead and use, well, we're going to sidestep first, so we don't trigger any more reaction attacks, and we're going to use lesser impulse. So lesser impulse is the same as greater impulse, except that there is no empowerment to the action. Once again, this is a special attack, so it's a one-off use. It does not come back. Oh, and also lesser impulse doesn't heal the hero that you're targeting. Of course, we have to target the controller there, and she's going to use blood petals. All right, so blood petals is a ranged attack, does 11 damage and moves the target. And if I roll an even number, it's going to give the target bleeding. Here we go. We're going to go ahead and roll. Rolling against a 6 defense. That's a 13. That's going to do 11 damage and kill off the berserker. Bye. So there you have it. So that is the final room of the first scenario, just to give you an idea of how to use the Comrades. Chances are I missed using one of their passive effects again, but it does simplify things a little. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep using them this way. I really like the skill pads. I really like the interplay between the characters on the field that skill pads offers, because it offers like some really interesting, just dynamic battle situations where it feels like there are multiple things happening at once rather than a person takes a turn, that person takes a turn. There's just a lot more going on. Yes, it's more overhead. Yes, there's a lot more to keep track of. And I do my best in these playthroughs to keep track of everything. There's really a lot to keep track of. But I don't know. I really like having all the characters with all their abilities It makes them more unique. Also, the armor and the weapons, you get those with the main characters. Now, you do get to level up your comrades over time. And so you'll have these level ups and these costs here at the top, and requires various materials to level up, as well as like a building in the city. But then the stats are increased, so he's got more hit points, he gets a better benefit, the effects are better, and so on. So things just get better and better as you level up. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Also, one thing I didn't show you is, because it doesn't happen in the first scenario, but as you play the game, you're going to get NPC characters that you're going to be able to assign to each of your heroes. Now, normally these NPC characters provide a benefit for the quest. Like this one here says, change a level 0 attack for a level 1 tank or healer attack not in use. So it allows you to almost have like a multi-class character. That's kind of cool. Anyways, that does not happen with the Comrades. What happens with the Comrades is whatever this number is here, it gives the Comrades and that many mana cubes to start. If it's week 2, it's 2 mana cubes. If it's week 5, it's 5 mana cubes. There are further rules regarding that in chapter 6. It tells you up here that if there are some that are week 6, not only do you get the 5 cubes, but you begin the quest with 10 initial, not maximum hit points. And then the ones with the question mark count as if they were week 5. So having the NPCs with the Comrades just gives them a nice boost at the beginning. Not as customizable as the ones that you would get if you add them to the heroes. So I think for the overall role-playing experience, the customizing of the heroes, even the story, the immersive story that develops as you play, I really think I prefer the pads. But this does simplify it. So if you're looking at everything that I'm having to keep track here, and me telling you that there's a lot to keep track of, you may want to consider using the Comrades. So keep that in mind. There's also some other ways to customize the Comrades. You're going to want to look at the errata and enhancement file. I will give you a link in the description so you can check out that. There's a spot on changing the Comrades. And so you're able to actually use some of the attacks, the special attacks, instead of the greater and lesser impulse and some other things to customize the Comrade experience. So there's that as well. Anyways, I've taken up enough of your time for this video now. I really appreciate you watching. Please comment below. Let me know if I missed any rules. Once again, I try to capture everything here, but a lot to keep track of. I want you to know though, even though I say that, I have a blast playing this game. And so it's a really fun game. A lot of fun moments, a lot of fun combat. But anyways, please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you like the content you see here. Other than that, I thank you so much for watching Tabletop for One, and have a great night.